sure that we're not wasting time, I'll just have a quick look at the two handouts which I've passed to you, which are customer relationship skills, and the second one, which is just called relationship skills. So I'll just open those two documents and I'll share those with you on the screen in a second. So you should now see this. So the first one is this negotiation skills, which is client relationship skills. And just want to quickly talk you through it. There's quite a bit of information here. There's some talk about client relationship skills, negotiation, time management, and report writing, all of which are important elements to good customer relationships. Telephone techniques, interviewing techniques, investigations and business visits. So that there's, I'll just briefly show you, there's some handouts, some information, that reminders of the kind of things that you need to be doing, and we'll be talking about these things during today and the next two sessions. Over the years, I've read many reports, and lots of them are very badly written. So if you follow some of these brief guidelines, you might improve the report writing that you do. There's a section on telephone techniques and the kind of methods and the kind of things that you're aiming to portray as far as the customer is concerned. Interviewing techniques, as I say, we're going to be talking in detail about interviewing techniques. I've actually got a video of a client interview, and I want to talk it through with you. And in addition, it's also a landing decision as well. So it'll combine the landing that we did for the last 3 weeks with interviewing techniques. So it's quite a good session, that. So there's quite a lot of information in here, all useful for conducting interviews, the kind of questions to ask, open and closed questions. We'll be talking about these things during the next 3 weeks. So I just want to show you that all this information's here for you. Lots of tick lists, and a questionnaire here for you to complete if you wanted to. All kinds of memory questions if you were talking to a business about their lending portfolio. Lots and lots of questions to ask. You don't have to ask them all, of course. So lots and lots of information for you to use in your day-to-day work if you wish. So please have a look at this. And then there's a session on business visits, the kind of things that you're looking to do. So that's the first handout. The second one talks more about relationship skills. And again, we're talking about communication. We're talking about customer meeting checklists, the skills that you need, and the behaviors, planning your meeting, presenting information to the client. I've got a really good sales technique which you can use, which I'll talk about. And this, by the way, isn't only for banking, this can be used for anything, and it's extremely effective for those of you who have sales targets. It's a really, really useful thing to be able to use, and believe me, it's extremely effective. In my role as a consultant, when I left banking, I've shown various businesses how to use it with significant success in most cases. There's a sales call checklist, that kind of questions that you might want to ask. Again, some more information about business visits. And talking about customer satisfaction. So I just wanted to show you that you've got a big amount of information there, all of which I hope will be useful for you in your day-to-day roles. Lots and lots of tick lists. Introduce them as you wish. They're there to be used if you want them to, but I can tell you that the people that I've got to use those tick lists in the past, when I've been a sales manager and a district manager, those people have been very successful. Okay, so there's 4 of us now, so glad that 4 of you could be with us today. I wanted to start by oh, can you resend the files, please? My browser closed. Okay, sure, I'll do that. That's from Jay. We'll try this again, and Jay, if it doesn't work, I'll send it by email to everybody. So just let me try again. Tell me if you get this information the second time. Oh, that's just going to go to Jay at the minute. I need this to go to everybody. Okay. So Jay, did you receive that this time?
Yes, I got them. Thank you, Mike.
Perfect. That's great. I'm glad that you've got them this time. Excellent. Okay, so let me share the presentation with you. I've got quite a lot of information, which I hope will be of benefit to you. So just give me a second. I can see that I've been looking at this today, and I've got it open at the wrong page. Here we go. So it's customer relationship skills, which is the topic. You know who I am already, Michael Hill. So I won't introduce myself again. The course objectives: you should possess a thorough knowledge of customer relationship skills and best practices. The idea is to develop soft skills necessary for building successful relationships with clients and improve the earnings of your organization and its achievements. So some background information as an introduction to this. Talking about customer centricity, and that means thinking about the customer should be central to everything that we're doing. So all our efforts, all our strategies, all our tactics should be aimed at the customer and the customer's needs, understanding the customer's needs and meeting the customer's needs. So this was based on a research by Kantar quite recently, and the number of chief executive officers worldwide who believe that customer centricity is essential to business growth, and that was 91%. So quite a high percentage of chief executive officers who thought that this is important. And then of customers who think that their banks is customer centric. And in USA, it was 31%, India 29%, UK 20%, Germany 17%, Italy 13%, France 10%, Spain 9%, Poland 8%, and Netherlands 4%. So there's a big gap between what organizations wish to be seen as doing by the customers and what the customers actually think of our efforts. So clearly there's a lot of work to be done with our organizations. I've not included, or this survey didn't include, the Bahamas, but I think it's reasonable to say that if the states only manage 31%, in the eyes of the customers, it's important to point that out. There's most of the countries are going to be behind that. So thinking about future growth of our organization, this comes from customer acquisition. It comes from, it says branch growth there, but this is, it's channels growth really. The growth of the channels that our customers can contact us through, and then how we manage the customers, how we manage their experience, how we manage their data, how we manage our knowledge of the customers, and how we use that to the best effect. Because there's an awful lot of data that is available, and from my experience working with a number of banks internationally, I can tell you that they don't always use that data to the best effect. They don't get the knowledge that they should have about the clients, and they don't meet the client's needs. So there's an experience gap, and it's between what the bank or the organization promises and the customer experience. And the gap is the actual experience delivered and experienced by the client. And as you can see, banks are offering a lot and suggesting that they're all focused on customer service. And I can tell you that when in my days at Barclays in 2000, when did we introduce this program? I think it was 1995. It was called Customer First, and they had all kinds of methods of checking how satisfied customers were. It was customer satisfaction surveys. My team of branches, I think I might have mentioned to you previously, my team of branches won the Barclays Award for that 2 years in the row for the whole country, And the lengths that Barclays went to in terms of seeking customer feedback, using mystery shoppers, telephoning customers after they've been into a branch and bought a product, and all kinds of other methods. To think that after so many years of that, 25 years later, there's still a huge gap in between what organizations are suggesting that they intend to give and the experience that customers feel that they're actually getting. So we've got to remember that customer service isn't just about the branches and the people in the branches. It's in all the ways that the clients touch with our organizations, whether it's through ATMs and cards, whether it's through the internet, whether it's through mobile banking, call centers, through our websites, through points of sale services, and if we use agents in our banking services as well, what kind of experience are people having through all those different channels? We can, I've seen a number of organizations that are trying to transform their branches in terms of the sales culture planning, in terms of giving enhanced sales training to make sure that we understand the needs of the client, by developing IT solutions so that the IT is customer friendly, that we have correct data in branches. Some organizations are introducing a universal banker model, which I'll talk about briefly in a moment. But how do we retain our customers? Do we actually have an active way of retaining dissatisfied customers? Do we have a proactive customer relationship management program? Proactive means is the opposite of reactive. Reactive, we only act when a customer asks us something or there's a stimulus, as opposed to proactive, when we take the initiative, when we notice that a client needs something because of our use of the data, because of our management of the data. Through our management of the data channels, which I've already mentioned, and through the sales support from districts and branches. So how are our organizations supporting our sales efforts? You have to remember that there are all kinds of digital touch points and physical touch points, and the clients interact with us in many different ways, through getting adverts at the bottom, through the TV, through print, looking at search engines, social media. But first of all, somehow or other, we get their attention and they start thinking about our services, the things that we offer. They get into the buy mode. Are they going to buy via an in-branch service or through some kind of website or mobile site. But then how do we offer customer service in terms of post-sales service and ongoing service of their day-to-day financial needs? And then how do we build loyalty? Because it's much cheaper and more effective if we can get our customers to be loyal with our organization rather than buying many different products from many different organizations. Loyalty has a significant impact on profitability. So how do we actually get our clients to feel a sense of loyalty to us? And then we can look at loyalty in a number of different ways in terms of the service that we give. So we've got customers based behavior, which can be split into loyalists, people who are loyal because of some kind of emotional feeling towards the bank. So inertia, some people are loyal simply because they can't be bothered shopping around. And then some people make a deliberate decision to be loyal because of their they reassess the purchases, they think they're getting good value for money, they think they're getting good service, and they continue buying from that organization. I have to say that I do this in all kinds of things. I do it with restaurants, I do it with bars, I do it with all kinds of things. I perhaps, as you know, I travel around a lot, and I end up in a new city for sometimes several months, and I'll try out several local restaurants, and I choose the 2 or 3 that gave me the best service, gave me the best food, gave me the best overall experience. And then not only do I get to know those people, use them regularly, but I introduce my other colleagues and clients and people that I meet in my day-to-day work within that new city, and take them there as well and introduce them. And quite often I take people to restaurants in their own city that they've never been to before, and they're absolutely delighted and thank me for the introduction. And people get more business because of the introductions which I give. So this is how it works. I've just given you a simple example of what I do, but if you can get all your clients to behave in that way, they prefer to come to you because of the great service that you give them. That can have a snowball kind of tsunami kind of effect in terms of the profitability and the growth of your organization. But then you also get the opposite behavior, where people are migrating. Their lifestyle means that they don't need so many products from your organization. So purely because of their lifestyle changes, they change because of deliberate choices, because they don't like the service that you offer. And then the actual dissatisfied downward migrators who are actually actively dissatisfied and tell other people that they're dissatisfied with your service. And I once heard a statistic which I believe to be true, which is that people tell at least 7 other people of their dissatisfaction with an organization. So that can have, again, a multiplying effect, because I know of people who say to me, I have heard that from somebody else, that such and such a restaurant or such and such a bank or such and such a hotel doesn't give great service these days. And it affects lots of people's assessment of that particular organization. So we need to be really, really careful about how we manage every single interaction, and how we make sure that all of the people within our organization are giving great service and great follow-on service to our customers. Later on, I'm going to be talking about the sales process, where we turn suspects into prospects. We qualify these people, we present them with a product, and we close the deal. And this can be used in the sales management. So if you've got a team of people working for you, you can manage how these lists of suspects and prospects are are followed up and manage how well people turn suspects into closed sales. So sales management is all about this pipeline of suspects and prospects into managing the people, managing the clients, and managing the process. So I'll just mention this as well, because it's important as part of the process. Customer service should be managed, sales should be managed. We shouldn't just rely on people to do these things. We can actually manage and influence the way that people behave. I mentioned the universal banker model, and I want to just talk about this just for a moment or so. The universal banker model is based on the fact that this can be used in, again, it uses the word banker, but this can be used in any customer-facing organization, where we teach our clients to have a customer understanding. We teach them about particular products. We make sure that they have the IT and the digital skills, they understand the processes, they have the selling skills, and they understand the customer relationship management. The universal banker or the universal salesperson model is based on the fact that each time they learn about a new product, each time they learn about a new service, they pass a test and they're signed off to actually be able to offer that. And the more things that they can sell, the more things that they understand intimately, they become more of a universal salesperson. Make themselves more useful to the organization, make themselves more successful in terms of the sales results that they get, and make themselves more likely to be promoted and to achieve sales bonuses. So it's a win-win situation for the staff and the organization. So we talk about identifying services that people need to be able to offer. We talk about enabling the people by training them, by doing role plays, by doing test scenarios, by testing them and accrediting them and making sure that they actually have the knowledge, and retesting people and awarding them accreditation, and then developing a checking process to make sure that people have these skills and this knowledge. And we're thinking about all kinds of things. We're thinking about the quality that we deliver. We're thinking about the solutions that we offer, the quality of the services. Do we help people? What sales service do we give? What kind of after-sales service do we give? Do we act as a guide? Do we give support to our clients? And what kind of feedback do we get? Do we get great feedback? So a number of introductory thoughts. But today I want to talk about a number of things, but just before I do, I'm just going to open the discussion. So Rodrika, Jay, Claudia, I'm afraid that I've forgotten what K stands for. So if you could type in the chat what K stands for, K Woods, I'm afraid that I've forgotten. So you'll have to. It would help an old man's memory if you could change K Woods into your name, please. That would be really, really helpful. But just before I carry on with the presentation, I know that you're all experienced people, and have the things that I've said so far been of interest? Are those the kind of things that you'd like to learn more about? How are we doing, folks?
Yes, I could say yes for me.
Okay, Jay, that's great. Anybody else? Claudia, Rodrika?
Yeah, I do find the organization I actually work for now is very customer service focused, and yes, it does make a huge difference. We found if we're responsive versus if something slips or someone's on vacation. So yes, that is like one of the #1 things.
Okay, great.
So I agree. It's very interesting.
Okay, good. Okay, thank you.
Yes, my name is Keva, by the way. Sorry.
Kevel. Oh yeah, sorry. I should make a note of that. It's let me do this, and then I'll know for next time. Okay. Okay, thank you, Carol, for that feedback. And it's very interesting. For years now, I've been involved in sales management and management of customer service, and it's quite interesting to remember Barclays, as I say, in 2003 saying customer first, but clients still don't get that feeling of customer, feeling that they are customer first. So there's some kind of disconnect between the tactics that the organizations are trying to employ and what's actually happening. And I found from my own personal experience that if I monitored people, I actually watched staff working with clients and talking to clients, even though we talked about these things regularly in meetings, when they came into seeing the clients themselves, people used it as a kind of a menu where they selected not a table d'hôte menu where they used everything from the menu, but they actually used it as a selector menu, and they just chose certain things and totally ignored key elements of what were considered to be top customer needs, top customer skills that should be used. And the bank can only be as good as the staff who interact with the clients on a day-to-day basis, and somehow making sure that all of the staff follow all of the rules rather than just choosing the ones that suit them can make a significant difference. And I can tell you that I had a team of more than 100 people when we won this award for 2 years on the run. The bank centrally from London sent a video team to come and interview us to see how we were managing to do this, and this was then distributed throughout the whole country. And I was interviewed on behalf of my branch for 2 years on the run, and asked to explain why were we getting so much better service results than other branches. And it was to do with breaking it down into very small groups, appointing a team lead of every group, agreeing on targets, agreeing on behaviors, meeting regularly to discuss outcomes. So what did we do well? What could we do better based on the feedback which the bank gave us? All agreeing what we had to do, giving people individual feedback about their behaviors and congratulating good behavior, and asking people to improve on unwelcome behavior. But also something else that was really important. Sometimes I would talk to one department and they'd say, oh, the reason that we're having a problem is because the data processing unit isn't doing this for us. Then you go to the data process unit and say, one of the branches is saying they have a problem caused by you, and they say, well, yeah, but the problem is they don't help us. And sorting out these interdepartmental problems to make sure that everybody's playing in the same way and making sure that everybody, there's no barriers to providing good service. So it's a team effort. It's about making sure that everybody's behaving in the same way, using repeatable behaviors, learning repeatable behaviors, and making sure that people do repeat those behaviors and keep calm, for example, when customers are aggressive because they're unhappy with a service fault. And just as a final afterthought before I go back to the presentation, I can tell you that some of the best customers I ever had were customers that initially came in really angry with the bank because of a service failure. And I was able, first of all, to listen to them, to apologize on behalf of the bank, to deal with their complaints effectively, make sure it never happened again, and actually turned really severely dissatisfied customers, some of them really important clients, into advocates for the bank and people who bought lots and lots of products from us in the future. So it's it's important to make sure that everybody is behaving in the same way. Okay, so I want to talk about the 7 habits, because this is all about behaviors and being good managers of your own behaviors. So there's a book called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. I don't know if you've ever read it. If you haven't, it's something worth reading. It's quite a thick book, actually. I've got it, but also you can buy audio files to listen to it. You can watch sections on YouTube, but it's a great book, and it's something worth talking about. So he talks about in his 7 habits. Habit 1, oh, by the way, these were based on highly successful business people, and he broke down their behaviors into 7 habits which people could repeat. So he talks about being proactive. So again, I've mentioned the word proactive a few moments ago. It's the opposite of being reactive. So it's actually noticing a client might need something and approaching them about their need, perceived need, rather than waiting for them to take the step, which, because we're talking about financial services, quite often they don't need that. They don't know that they should do that thing. So being proactive is really important. So we'll talk a little bit about being proactive. Second 2 is beginning with the end in mind. That means having a plan, actually having a destination. I am going to do something, and this will be the result. So actually beginning something with the end in mind. Number 3 is managing your time. And believe me, this is so important to good customer service. Some of the worst salespeople that I had were people who are bad at managing the time. So I'll just talk a little bit about Stephen Covey's answer for managing your time. Moving from dependence to independence, and lastly to interdependence, where teams are working together. So habit 4 is thinking win-win, and that's all about negotiation. Habit 5 is seeking first to understand and then be understood. And believe me, that is crucial, absolutely crucial to understanding sales and understanding service. Synergizing, putting people's ideas together, and this is about team working. And finally, sharpening the saw is about your ongoing personal development. So just talk quickly about some of these habits, but I want to speak more in a little bit more depth in the time available about some of the habits which are really important for customer service. So another thing to remember is that you can actually develop habits. And according to Stephen Covey, a habit is the intersection of knowledge, skill, and desire. So you have to want to do something. You have to know about what you're going to do and why you're going to do it. And then the skill is how to do something. And it's really important to develop habits, to make these things automatic, to actually get into the habit of doing things rather than having to remember, how do I do this? How do I do that? Actually learn to form a habit. And I believe that most habits that you need to do can actually be formed in 21 days. Something to think about. So as I say, we're talking about these private victories, being proactive, beginning with the end in mind, and putting first things first. So I want to make sure that people are taking full responsibility for yourself, deciding what you want, and then living by it and doing it. So these are the first things that you need to get to grips with. But I strongly, if you've never seen this book before, I strongly recommend that you get hold of it, start learning something about it. It's quite a thick book, actually, so you might want to look at the YouTube versions of these things, which are recommended. Well, being proactive is an action-oriented behavior. It's taking the first step. It's actually taking the initiative and showing that you have control. So rather than waiting for a client to do something, you actually identify an issue and exploit, I'm not sure whether that's a word really, the exploitation of opportunities. So you're taking preemptive action with clients, approaching them and saying, I won't give you any hints at the moment, but I'll actually show you the sales process later about how to be proactive in identifying needs with clients, rather than waiting for them to come into your branch and ask for something. So just to explain the difference between proactive and reactive. A reactive person says, there's nothing I can do to achieve my targets. I can't do that. I have to do that. So if somebody's forcing me to do something, as opposed to, I have no practical alternative, I've got to do it. I won't do that because I've chosen, rather than reacting to something, and I've decided to do that. I've actually taken a proactive approach and I've decided to do something. I've actually said to myself, I'm going to do something because I can see the benefit of doing it. I've worked out the benefit of doing it, and it's something that I need and must do. So you can think about your circle of influence and your circle of concern. And it's quite often people complain to me, team members used to complain to me and say, oh, I can't do this and I can't do that because I don't have any influence over it. And I used to say, look, what you should do is worry about the things that you can control rather than the things that you can't control. So in terms of work, if people impose targets on you, that's fine. Just deal with it in terms of your what you can control. How can I achieve those targets? Don't complain to me that the target's too tough. Use your best efforts to achieve those targets. But I can tell you that if you start to learn about things through your attitude, through your knowledge, through your skills, through your enthusiasm and through your habits, you can actually widen this circle and actually develop new skills and make this circle of concern smaller, because you've got far more influence over things. So be proactive, learn new skills, accept the things that you can't control, and learn to be good at the things that you can control. So you widen your circle of influence, you develop more habits, you build trust issues with clients, you learn to manage your new boss, you learn about pending legislation, you learn to cope with your relationships, you learn to manage your health, you find out the things that could go wrong, and you start to take proactive steps to improve your lifestyle, for example, in terms of concerns about health. Manage your diet, manage your fitness regime, learn new things, join a gym, take proactive action. So by being proactive, you stay focused on the solution, not the problem. I have so many people who used to work for me who used to drive me mad because for every solution, they could think of a new problem. For every solution, I had certain people who could think of a new problem. Oh, I can't do that because, rather than staying focused on the solution, rather than thinking, oh, that won't work because. Try and focus on finding a solution to the problems. Learn to rely on yourself instead of always asking people, how do I do this? How do I do that? Watch a YouTube video. Develop a way of teaching yourself how to do things. Analyze your steps in advance. Try and work out things that'll work. Try and avoid saying things that may not work. set yourself realistic goals. Having goals is the next thing we're going to be talking about in terms of having a plan. But I can tell you that people who have goals, people who actually have set lifelong goals, are far more successful than people who don't have goals. So whenever I was managing people in my team, I used to get people to set goals, because I learned many years ago through a survey that was carried out at, I think it was Stanford University in the United States. They did a long-term study of student effectiveness and student success. And they interviewed a whole range of students, and then many years later went back to observe those students and see who'd been successful, who was wealthy, who was happy. And it was very interesting because I think it was 2% of the students that they interviewed initially were 80% more wealthy than the other 98% of the students. It was a very, very high percentage of wealth that 2% had, rather than the 98%. And they then went back to see, well, okay, what did those students have in common? And it wasn't that their dads were film stars or had inherited wealth. It wasn't that they were lucky or they'd won money on in Las Vegas or something like that. The thing that split those people, distinguished those people from the other 98% of the students, was the fact that even at a young age, even when they first joined university, they had long-term goals. They'd set goals for themselves. They knew what they wanted to achieve in life. That not only had they set goals, but they'd set steps on the way to make sure that those things happen. So let me ask you again, do you actually have life goals? Do you have goals for this year? Do you have goals for 3 to 4 years' time? If I said to each one of you sitting down in a meeting, what is your goal for this year? What would you tell me? And if you haven't got goals, please let me suggest that you start thinking about it. So be proactive, but then start or begin with the end in mind. So in other words, if I leave this house and I get into my car and I don't know where I'm going to go, it doesn't matter which way I go. Which is, I guess, a simple statement to say, but it's true about anything you do in life. If you go to work and you don't have an end in mind, you don't have a goal, you don't know what you're going there to achieve, it doesn't matter what you do. So how would you be regarded? Just think about, let's be a little bit depressing for a moment. Just think about your retirement meeting or at your funeral. Let's say you could listen to what people were saying about you at your funeral. What would you want them to say about you? Would you want them to say that you were a kind person, a helpful person, a successful person? What would you want them to say? What do you want your legacy to be? Have you even thought about that? What is it? What kind of person do you want to be remembered as being? And what are you doing about it? How are you going to achieve that? So first of all, you need to actually have a plan about what you want to be. So begin with what you want, define your goals, and then plan ways to achieve it through study, through work, through learning things. But Stephen Covey said, your most important work is always the work ahead of you, never behind you. Don't worry about things that have happened other than to learn from them. Don't agonize over them. Just make sure you do things better in future. So create your own mission statement. Focus on what you want to be and what you want to accomplish in your own personal life, in your team working, and incorporate principles and values. What are your values? Are you, do you want to be a trusted person, a respected person? What are your principles? What are you going to do? How do you want to behave? But having that in mind, achieving your targets, achieving success at work and in defined ways is a key way to make sure that you're successful at work. So again, Stephen Covey says people are working harder than ever, but because they lack clarity and vision, they aren't getting very far. They are in essence pushing at a rope with all their might. And you know what it's like pushing at a rope, it just curls up in front of you rather than actually having a clear vision of why you're doing things and making sure that you're doing them well so that you're achieving your long-term goals. Habit 3 is about effective time management. And I can tell you, I use this with so many of my team to improve their work performance. And I'll just tell you about one guy called Dave. He was one of my senior guys. In fact, when I merged several branches when I became responsible for this particular unit. And he was the branch manager for a small branch, and he came to be one of my senior people who worked for me. But he could never understand why he didn't get the overall team leader job rather than me. But I could tell you that it was because he was disorganized. He wasn't particularly successful at his sales. And one day I saw him and he had the reddest face you could possibly imagine. Now, looking at me, you can see I'm quite a pale person. When I got up this morning, the temperature in the UK was 3 degrees centigrade, which is pretty cold, I can tell you. And there was ice on the car outside. We're in May, for goodness sake, it's the 8th of May. And there was still ice outside on the house. So we've got a cold area here at the moment. But this guy had a red face. And I said to him, "What's the matter, Dave?" And he said, "Oh, I can't cope. I've just got so many things to do. I'm behind with everything and I just can't cope and I'm under so much stress." So I said, "Okay, this afternoon I want you to come into my room, cancel all your appointments, come into my room and bring all your outstanding work with you." And he said, "Oh, I haven't got time to do that." I said, "Look, I'm your boss. We need to sort this out. Come in and see me." So, okay, he cleared his diary, I cleared my diary, and he came into my room. And he walked into the room. I don't know if you can see me, but he had a basket and it was full of paper and it was kind of this high and it was wobbling from side to side. And he walked into this room with all this wobbling paper and I thought, oh goodness, he has got lots of work to do, all this stuff. And he put it down in front of me and I said, "Oh, that's a lot of work." He said, "You haven't seen it all yet." And he went back out and he brought another pile of paper in a basket and he brought that in. So this is his pending file. This was all the work that he had to do. And this is why he was stressed. So just bear this in mind, because we then did what Stephen Covey suggested. And as I say, I did this many, many times with staff, and we thought about what Stephen Covey is saying, because he says statistics show that every day we waste hours because of messy desks, because we can't find things, we miss appointments, we're unprepared for meetings, we're tired and unable to concentrate. So in addition, we spend 4 or 5 hours a day in front of the TV and 2 hours or probably more these days on social networks. So are we necessarily behaving in the right way? So Professor Randy Pausch said, "You don't find time for important things, you make time." And I was always one of the guys when I was younger. I was the chairman of both. I had 2 kids, and one at the primary school, one at the senior school. I was the chairman of the governors at one. I was the chairman of the Parents Association at the other. And I was always trying to get people to come and help, friends and people and that I knew, neighbours. And people would always say to me, "Oh, I'm so busy. I don't know how you make time to do this. It's important. You're doing a great job, but I don't know how you make time." But then somebody told me one day, if you want somebody to do something for you effectively, find a busy person, because they're the people who've learned how to cope and learn how to manage the time effectively. But time is the only resource that you can't reuse. Time is the only resource that you can't reuse. I'm a little bit older than you guys, and a lot of time has left me, and I'll never get that time back. So have I used it effectively? This is what I got Dave to do with his work. I split the work into 4 boxes. I looked at box 1, which we look at urgency and importance. So box 1 is urgent and important. Those are things I have to do now. Box 2 is not urgent but important. Box 3 is urgent and not important. And box 4 is not urgent and not important. So let me say it again. I've got some things which are urgent and important, some things which are not urgent but important. I've got some things which are urgent but not important, and I've got some things which are not urgent and not important. So box 1, 2, and 3, and 4. So just looking at those boxes, I want you to answer this question. Kiva, Rodrika, Claudia, or Jay, which box do you think you should be working in? Which is the best box to be working in, do you think? Or which box should you be working in? Box 1, 2, 3, or 4?
I'd say 1.
Yeah, I would say 1 too. Urgent and important, because those the things that you need to knock out right away, or the high impact activities.
Okay, thank you. What about you, Rodrika?
I
Excuse me?
agree.
You agree?
I agree. Box 1.
Box 1, okay. So Kiva, you're the only person. What do you think?
Yes, definitely box 1.
Okay, well, box 1 was where Dave was working, but I'm going to show you in a minute. But actually, box 2 is the place where you should be working, because the problem with urgent is that it's stress. Urgent means I've got so many things to do and I've got deadlines to meet, I've got targets which I'm behind on. So everything becomes urgent and everything becomes stressful. However, if I'm able to focus on important things, but make sure that they're not urgent, I'm managing them in such a way that I'm dealing with all the important things before they become urgent, then I can take stress out of the situation and I can actually make myself more effective, because people who are working under stress are often people like Dave with bright red faces, feeling pressurized, feeling worried, not sleeping at night, and they're actually not as effective as they could be. Whereas if I'm dealing with all the important things that I need to deal with, but I'm not dealing with them because they're urgent, I'm dealing with them in good time before they become urgent, then I've got a far better chance of being effective. So the first thing to do is to decide what's urgent. This is where goals comes in again. Just let me bring up my ink thing again. This is where goals comes in again, because the important things should be the things that are achieving my goals. So if I have goals, and some of those will be work goals, and some of them will have been delegated to you by your boss, you've got targets. These are the important things that you should be working on in terms of your work life or your personal life. But if you don't actually have goals, it's very difficult to establish what are the important things in your life, as opposed to the things that are not important. Okay, so first of all, be very, very clear. What are the important things and what are not the important things? So I had that discussion with Dave, and we agreed on his goals. We agreed on his targets, and we were talking about mainly work things. So we were talking about these 2 huge baskets of work, which were wobbling away on the table. And then we started to put them into urgent and important, important but not urgent, urgent but not important, and not urgent and not important. And it was quite interesting because we put some really important things in there. Reports that he should have done to head office, clients that he should have gone back to. But it was the smallest file. He had some important things that weren't urgent yet because the deadlines hadn't arrived. He had lots and lots of urgent things, but they weren't important. They didn't achieve any of his goals. And he had lots and lots and lots and lots of things that were not urgent and not important. So the first thing I told him to do was to get rid of this. It's not urgent, it's not important. Why are you even worried about that? So I got rid of pretty much 3/4 of his outstanding stuff just by going through this process with him. We managed quickly with this, and then the focus was this. We actually put times on these important things. And it turned out that he could do all of his urgent things, all of these things that were causing him stress in 1.5 days. So I said, okay, what you must do, Dave, is spend the next 1.5 days dealing with all those really serious, outstanding issues. And then you move on to the next stage, which is having a planned system. So you actually build up, just let me clear this. You actually build up a process where you've got, you can have this as 7 folders, which you keep in a drawer. But for the next 7 days, you have a folder and you plan what work has to be done like this. But the way that you do it is you split each day within that 7 days into your working day, into hours or half hours. And we worked out, Dave had 8 working hours. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, not drawn this very well, but it doesn't matter, 6, 7, 8. Okay. So in each day, there were 2 hours of unplannable work, telephone calls that people would make, urgent letters, things that he had to deal with. Okay. But then there were 6 hours that he could plan to do important things, such as achieving some sales targets, making some proactive sales calls, doing all kinds of planning sales meetings or customer service meetings. So he plans his work for every day for those 7 days or perhaps more to make sure that everything that he gets has a date on it and a time by which it should be done in advance. So he's switched pending work into planned work. So I've actually got a plan for when everything is going to be done. And the beauty of this system is that I now know when everything is going to be done. I've got time every day to deal with unexpected things because I know that on average every day I've got 2 hours of unexpected things that are going to happen, and I'm going to plan the work. Now, it's great this because you might reach your closing time on the day, 5 o'clock. You actually get to 4:30 and you've done all that day's work. And then if you want to, you can think to yourself, I'll give myself a treat. I'll go home early today. Or alternatively, you can actually start working on tomorrow's work and you can actually get in hand for tomorrow. And it's a wonderful feeling, believe me, to be in a situation where you're actually starting to work on tomorrow's work. But what this means is that in future, you never have a situation where you're in a stressful situation coping with deadlines, because you plan the deadlines in advance. Part of this relies on managing customers' expectations. So you need to manage customers' expectations. Sorry. And what managing up to customers' expectations means is that you've actually got all these customers who've asked for things for the next 6 or 7 days, and then you get an urgent telephone call today, and the customer says, oh, I've got this really urgent thing. Can you help me to get this loan or to get this thing, and do it now? Urgent, urgent, urgent. Okay, so I've now got this urgent thing. And why should this customer now push in front of all these people here? Why should they demand your attention when you've already committed to other clients that you're going to give them a response within certain timescales? So many years ago, I asked all my team to behave in this way, to actually say to clients, actually ask, rather than just start dealing with the latest rushed, urgent thing from a client, actually when do you need this? And it's quite interesting because quite often clients say, oh, I need it by Friday, or I need it by Monday. And then you can plan this into your work because you've got spare time on Thursday or Wednesday, or you've got some time in the future that you can do this, so you can actually agree to provide it by Friday, but under promise by saying Friday, promise, but over deliver, because you're actually going to do it on Thursday, and you're going to send it back to them on Thursday, and therefore delight the customer. So it was interesting. I had a team of 20 guys, senior guys, and some of them said, oh, I can't do that. My customers will be really upset. I don't want to upset people. And other guys said, Mike's the boss. If he says do it, we'll do it. Not sure we agree, but we'll do it. Within 2 weeks, everybody in my team was doing the same thing, because I didn't ever get a complaint about this. The guys that refused to do it soon changed the behavior, because the guys that did do it discovered very quickly that customers accepted this situation. There were the occasional customers who said, I really need it today, I've got to have it today. And then the next question is, how long have you known about this? And they say, oh, I've known about it for 7 or 10 days. Well, if you told me 10 days ago, I could have done a better job for you. So in future, please let me know sooner so that I can work on this for you. But now I can put this into my 2 hours at the beginning of the day. Remember, I've set aside some time for unexpected things. They're now in my unexpected box. But in future, I've trained those people that they will give me time, and they will not ask or expect an immediate response to things, because other people are ahead of them in the queue, and they wouldn't want people to jump ahead of them in the queue. So why should they jump ahead in the queue? So managing people's expectations, managing the client's behavior, is a really effective way of being more effective yourself. So work out what can you delegate, what are you wasting time doing, how could you be more effective, and how do you waste other people's time chatting by the coffee machine, chatting about yesterday's cricket match or yesterday's football match. But then having some kind of time management plan where you put first things first and get rid of things that are not important. The postscript to Dave's story was that about 2 weeks later, I saw Dave again in the car park, and I said to him, I know he's pale, he's not red anymore. And I said to him, I knew things were better. I could just tell by the look on his face. And I said to him, how are things going, Dave? And the very first words he said to me, I'll never forget it. Dave said, Mike, you have given me back my life. Mike, you have given me back my life. So this is about customer service. This is about salespeople doing things well for the clients, managing their time, being effective, but also managing clients' expectations and under-promising and over-delivering. I've given you quite a few rules there to to make a note of. So habit 4 is all about negotiation. Habit 4 is about win-win. And this is a really, really interesting concept, because whenever I talk about win-win, I then do, when I have face-to-face classes, I put people into an exercise, and I put teams into 2 groups, and I always get them to do the same exercise. And the exercise is actually to achieve a positive score. It's not to beat the opposition, it's to achieve a positive score. And 2 teams go into this, and you'll be amazed, their whole focus quite often is thinking about winning and the other team losing, and how can we make it that the other team loses. And actually, it's a terrible negotiating strategy, but it's how we've been brought up as kids. We play football, we play cricket, we play games at school, we play running races, and it's always about winning, and it's always being top of the class, and it's always about being better than the other person. And unfortunately, many of people bring that attitude of win-lose to work. But how does that work in reality? If I'm in a win-lose situation with my customers, and so I've got win, lose, and win. Win, lose. So in this one, box 1 is the box which I think we should always be in, which is win-win. This one is win-lose, I win and you lose, box 2. This box is I lose and you win. So that's not much good for me. It's great for the client, but not much good for me. And in this one, we all lose. You lose and I lose. So that's not great either. But how is it that if I win but the client loses, the client's not going to be very happy with me, and why would they buy something from me in future? But if the client wins and I lose, what's the point in that? Why be in business if the client's winning and the bank's losing, or I'm losing? Surely far better if we both win. Surely to find a solution which is a win-win solution, rather than having this attitude, I've got to win when I go into this negotiating position. So really successful, highly successful and effective people have worked this out, that negotiation is a philosophy in which all parties to an agreement or a deal stand to realize their fair share. Possibly not 100%, but their fair share of the benefits or the profits. So we seek a solution through which both parties win at the same time. And if you're dealing with business people, most business people realize that they're in business and you're in business. And if we work out a solution where we can both win, that's better for us all, rather than them winning and you losing, or the bank winning and them losing. So we're aiming for this win-win situation where it's good for both of us, rather than being bad for both of us, or being better for one than the other. So we're thinking win-win, and you do that through integrity, by sticking through your true feelings, by maturity, expressing ideas and feelings with courage, but by an abundance of mentality, believing that there is plenty for everybody. We can both do this when we're working together. So Stephen Covey says, when one side benefits more than the other, that's a win-lose situation. To the winner, it might look like success for a while, but in the long run, it breeds resentment and distrust. The customer, if they think that the bank's won and they've lost, why would they do business with you again in the future? If you don't work for a bank, if you work for any kind of other services organization, why leave the client with a bad feeling? So when we're talking about negotiation, we're thinking about win-win, working out how the client can win, but thinking also about how we can win at the same time. We go into the discussion with that mentality. The fifth habit, which is equally important, is seek first to understand, then be understood. I speak to so many people who don't listen to what I'm saying. They think they know what I'm going to say. They interrupt me before I finish talking. They quite often get the wrong end of the stick because they're not listening. I've watched people who go into interviews and the client has actually said the key thing, the killer thing, but the client manager was so busy thinking of the next question, they totally missed. They weren't listening properly, and they didn't catch on to the client giving the critical issue and not picking up on this key thing. And I used to try and avoid saying anything in these meetings, but occasionally they'd miss such a crucial thing that I had to say, can I just stop the interview for a minute? Can I just ask you to say, Mr. Client, what you just said again? And quite often the member of staff would be quite cross because we'd agreed that I would rarely interrupt. They agreed that I wouldn't say something in the meeting. And then I get the client to repeat what they just said, and ding, the member of staff suddenly think, oh, everything I've been trying to achieve, the client's just said no. I've totally missed because I was listening. I wasn't listening properly. I was thinking more about my next question because I was trying to impress the boss. And Stephen Covey, most people do not listen with intent to understand. They listen with an intent to reply. Let me repeat that. Most people do not listen with an intent to understand. They listen with an intent to reply. And I've seen that happen so many times. And I have to say, knowing this deeply now, understanding this deeply, when people interrupt me and tell me something that I wasn't going to say, it really frustrates me because I just want people to listen to the content. I want them to listen critically, actually understand what I'm saying and think about what I'm saying. Listen with empathy, understand how I'm feeling, and listen actively, actually nod. Listen in a way that makes me see that they are understanding, they are listening carefully. So do you actively listen? Do you nod sometimes? Do you smile? Do you frown if people are telling you bad information? Do you listen? Does your body language show that you're listening? Do you listen for what people are saying? Do you think about what they're saying? Or are you actually thinking about what you're going to say next? And believe me, you can't imagine, just by watching people's body language and the way that they're looking at the notes, the way that they're looking up in the air, the way that their eyes are not focusing, looking at the client with focus, I already know, and the client already knows that you're not listening properly. And if you do listen actively, if you do show by looking closely at the client's face, watching their body language, nodding with them, shaking your head with them, smiling, being empathetic, being concerned about their problems, if you're not doing those things, you're not listening properly. This is key to customer service. So it's a habit of Stephen Covey, but it's key to customer service. So you need diagnosis. You need to understand what they're saying. You need to effectively listen to diagnose what people are saying. You've learned to read, you've learned to write, you've learned to speak, but people haven't learned how to listen properly. This intent to reply is what most people are doing. They're formulating the response while the other person's speaking. So I want to show how clever I am by coming up with some clever thing to say, rather than carefully listening to what people have said. So you listen through your own paradigm. And that means actually hearing things through your own experience rather than hearing things through my experience. So the mix should be 3 times of listening to 1 time of talking. So you should be listening far more as a salesperson than talking. When I was younger, I used to know a few people who went into sales, and they used to tell me they were good at sales because they were good at talking. And actually, as I got better at teaching people how to be salespeople, I realized that good talkers aren't necessarily good salespeople. Good listeners are good salespeople. Good listeners are good salespeople. So I want you to understand and then be understood. So I think that should say empathetic listening is listening with the intent to understand. Professionals need to understand the needs and concerns and situation before recommending a course of action. So if it doesn't matter if you're working in a bank, this is any financial advice situation that you might be involved in. You need to be involved in empathic listening. So you need 4 levels of competency. You mimic content, you rephrase content, so you're actually repeating the words that people have said to you in different ways. You reflect the feeling. So if people are feeling happy about this, you're happy too. If people are feeling concerned about this, you're concerned too. If people are feeling worried about this, you're worried about it too. So you're able to reflect the feeling. You rephrase the content, reflecting that feeling. So you receive, you understand, you remember, you evaluate, and then you respond. You're not responding before people have finished talking, which is what so many people do. And it drives me mad when people do that to me. So 10 rules of listening. Number 1, concentrate on what the speaker has to say. Number 2, listen for content and emotion, understand the entire message. Number 3, maintain a steady eye contact so speakers know your attention is with them. Number 4, reflect back with verbal feedback and confirm your understanding of their message. So you're actually, so from what I've understood you to say, you mean this. So you're confirming, but you're also showing that you've listened properly. Stay patient when people talk to you. Don't want to interrupt. Don't want to move on. Keep your tone sincere and non-judgmental when you listen. Try not to be judgmental. Oh, this person's an idiot. This person's wittering on. Keep your tone sincere. As I've said, when you give feedback, check understanding. Do so in 1 sentence. So let me be clear. What you want is this. No, it isn't. What I want is that. Ah, sorry, I misunderstood. Tune into how the message is being said, not just the words. So listen to the emotion. Acknowledge feelings that are important to the message you're hearing, and make your goal in conversation to show understanding of what the speaker truly means. Absolutely crucial for good customer service. Everybody who's good at customer service, who's good at sales, should be good at listening, not so much at talking. So things that people do wrong: using emails to express concerns, talking too much in sales situations, responding to requests immediately by saying it can't be done. I wonder how I can help you here. Just let me look into that. Providing your employees, if you're a manager, with opinionated criticism where their performance needs improvement. Not a good thing to do. Saying yes when you don't really mean it. Sitting passively when people are discussing issues with you. Be involved. Show emotion. Resist what is wrong and who is at fault when dealing with the problem. Try and think about the solutions rather than working out what's wrong with this situation. By focusing on yourself, what you like and don't like as you receive another message is a communication pitfall. attempting to soften the point when addressing tough or sensitive issues. Don't do that. Actually say, this is a serious issue. Let me give you a serious response to this. And pushing forward with your idea, disregarding the concerns that people have with it. So again, not listening to what people have said and just plowing on irrespective. You should be demonstrating empathy, actively listening, seeking to truly understand others before you attempt to make your own point. Coming to the end of Stephen Covey's issues, and it just gives us a few minutes to discuss this, but when leaders fundamentally don't believe people can be trusted, they create a system and structures that reflect that belief, such as hierarchy, multiple layers of management, and cumbersome processes. Synergy is getting people to work together, and synergy occurs when the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. So I love this in brainstorming. Synergy is all about brainstorming, all about getting people to share their ideas. Sorry, I'm using the wrong thing. I get you in a room, I get you to brainstorm. We talk about your good ideas. I ask you a question, or somebody asks me a question. This is when I like it the best. Somebody asks me a question, I think of 4 responses. I think, yep, that's it. 1, 2, 3, 4, there can't be anything else. So I share my 4 ideas and I put them on the board proudly. And then other people might agree with one of my ideas, but then have 2 or 3 more. I think, oh, I never thought about that. And somebody else says something else. Somebody else says something else. And some of these are repeated points, but we build up a list. And quite often, what each person thought was 3 or 4 points actually ends up being 25 points. And now we've really got a list. We've got all kinds of contributions. We've got all kinds of different experience. We've got all kinds of different solutions to a problem where I, as the boss, thought there was only 4. So now we're really kicking. But sometimes somebody, quite often a reflector, somebody reflects on all of this and comes up with the great idea, which is synergizing the best of all of those responses into the new wonderful idea. And suddenly we've got the killer response. And not one person thought of it. It was the synergy of all of these ideas. So working together as a team rather than being in a team where one person's a winner and you've got 9 losers. So even in your team day-to-day work, we should be applying win-win rather than I win and you lose, so that we're all winning together. I share my best ideas with you, you share your best ideas with me, and we become the winning team. We outperform every other team in the organization because we're synergizing the best ideas. And we actually become the beacon branch. We become the beacon team. Everybody wants to copy us. Everybody wants to be part of our team because we're the best team. We're the winning team. We're the Real Madrid or the Manchester United or the Manchester City these days, or the Liverpool. Everybody wants to play for the best team and join us because we've got the best ideas, rather than having one outstanding player, rather than having Neymar playing for PSG, but playing in a chronic league. We're in a team that everybody wants to be part of because it's the sense of satisfaction, working together, winning together, helping each other. So we synergize. And finally, the final habit is sharpening the saw. And this is all about maintenance and self-renewal. This is all about making sure that we look after ourselves physically, we get good sleep, we get good nutrition, we're healthy, we train, we keep ourselves fit, we eat a good diet, we get regular health checkups. We know that we have low cholesterol. We manage ourselves physically. we manage ourselves emotionally, and we look after ourselves in terms of our personal well-being. We learn things, we visualize things, we have this dimension for renewal. We're training ourselves, sharpening the saw. If I cut wood with a saw that's getting blunt, it takes me so much longer to cut the wood. Whereas if I'm seeking to develop new skills, if I'm seeking to find out other better ways of doing things, I'm becoming better all the time. I know that there's better ways that I can do things. I'm a little bit older than you, and I believe in lifelong learning. I still, at my age, I'm doing research. I found a new research paper, which I only identified earlier in the week, from Harvard University this week, about customer service. And I haven't actually internalized it next week, but I get information from all just been released, colleagues already, and I will share the insights with you. But please don't think that by the time you finish this course, you've learned everything you need to learn. You should be thinking of lifelong learning. The things that I was doing when your age, we're not doing anymore. Things are changing rapidly. They're changing all the time. And if I don't stay up with the time, I'm out of date. And I can't afford that. I don't want to be like that. I want to be ahead of the curve, not behind the curve. I want to be sharing new ideas and learning from people's ideas and getting your feedback and helping me to form my own ideas. On every course that I go on, I learn things. So I learn things from my students every day. The reason I like to be with students is that I learn from them. They look at my ideas through a new focus, through a new prism, and they discuss them with me, and they help me to see my ideas in a different way. And I continue to learn, even with grey hair. So I'm sharpening the saw. And I'm thinking about it in that way. So here we are. I've been talking for a long time now. Let me bring you back up a little bit, because I'd like to talk to you about Stephen Covey for a few minutes. Oh, Kiva, you've changed your name. Well done. Thank you so much for that. I don't need to. Oh, Kiva, yeah, you're there. So, somebody's just flicked out, but come back in again. Oh, here's Jay. Hi, Jay. Nice to see you. Good that I can see her face. You'll be interested to know I've got two spotlights. The reason you can see me like this is that I've got a spotlight over there, and I've got a spotlight there. So I've got lighting in my room as well.
Oh, you get a whole studio setup.
Yeah, I have. When just to be honest with you, Jay, I love face-to-face training. I so wish that I was in the room with you now and we could be talking together. I could see your body language. I could see if you were agreeing with me. I could see if you were falling asleep. I could see if you were on the telephone. You know, we could have a discussion, and we could be chatting about these things. It's so much easier, and I enjoy it so much more. But when I discovered that I was going to have to teach via Zoom, I did some research into Zoom, and I realized I discovered that first of all, you need spotlights, and you need to light your face in a certain way. So I did that. I bought 2 lights quickly. I've also bought myself a camera, and I used to have to have headphones and a mic, but that's always made me look kind of like an airline pilot or something in the cockpit, which I didn't like. So I spent about $100 in dollars. It's about $250 worth of camera and a microphone, which I've got, just to try and improve the quality of my communication. If I can't be with you, at least let me communicate well with you. So yeah. So I did that as just to try and be better at doing at doing these things and learn about these new things. But I noticed in the paper this week, the boss of Zoom, that the actual head of Zoom actually said publicly that he's sick of Zoom meetings, which is quite an interesting concept, really. He's got the whole world almost using Zoom, and he's sick of Zoom meetings. So that made me feel a little bit better, actually, that I feel about that. Can I ask you all, Jay's now actually communicating with me and I can see him, but can I ask you all, have you seen Stephen Covey before?
The person, no, I know that his books are well renowned, but the actual, okay, that's how he looks like, no. So you might look like him and I don't know.
I actually don't look a lot like him. The only way I look like him is that I'm probably a similar age to him. So, but other than kind of having the grey hair, I'm not so much like him. Rodrigo, I think you were going to say something. Have you seen Stephen Covey before?
No, I can't say that I have.
Okay, but were you interested in what he had to say?
Stephen Covey?
Yeah. I've just been sharing the 7 Habits with you. Were you interested in what he had to say?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I've started listening to that audio book off and on probably for the last year.
Oh, okay. Okay, so that's good. Do you find that it's helped your style to be using those audiobooks?
Definitely, I'm always on the go, and as much as I prefer sitting down to read, I think it helps my vocabulary when I read. But of course, because of lifestyle habits, I had to revert to audiobooks that I can listen to in the shower or in the car. And you pointed out something today, and as a matter of fact, I forgot that lesson, and I am definitely going to incorporate that as at Monday, which is organizing my workflow.
Yeah.
And as you were speaking, a thought hit me. I'm going to now put a timestamp and a date on when I get incoming work to better help my workflow.
Great.
So that's something that I appreciate
Great.
you reiterating today.
That's good. Thank you. It's very interesting. Jay, I think you're going to say something. I'll come to you. Go on.
I meant to say that the timestamp and date is a major key. I used to do that, and now it's a reminder that I need to pick it back up.
Okay.
That was a major key. I just wanted to say that.
Yes, yes, yes. I have what I do. I actually have tray slots and work that I get in on Monday. I put in the Monday slot, Tuesday, et cetera, et cetera. But like I said, I just realized that I could even be more efficient if I put a time on my incoming work, so that I can actually exceed my clients' expectations.
Right.
In my line of work, we kind of advertise responses within 48 hours.
Okay.
And with my Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday slot, I've actually gotten it down to less than 24 hours.
Cool.
But, you know, I'm an overachiever. So I'm going to challenge myself with the timestamp and see if I can actually get everything done in like 2 to 3 hours instead.
Oh, cool.
So that's going to be a task. I'll let you know how it goes next week.
Oh, I'll be interested to hear about that. Thank you for sharing that with me. It's interesting. First of all, you've got to have the goal, and you need to be able to distinguish important things within all of that, and get rid of the things that aren't important. But another thing is actually efficient processing. Are you actually processing things in the best way, and making sure that you're always improving your actual process within that management of your time? Do you get feedback? Can I ask, I'm sure you've all got a boss and you're all in customer facing roles. I get that from your initial introduction. Do you actually have a boss who monitors you in a customer facing role and then gives you feedback on your performance? Do you ever get that kind of coaching behavior?
When I was basically like a junior loan officer, it was a practice where they would watch when you have a client, and then they would also speak to one of your clients after you met them and find out exactly how was the meeting, what questions did he ask, how do you feel about it, did he give solutions and things like that. So, but that was something they only did with the junior officers, and then
Okay.
I think they stopped that. So it is. I don't know if it's still a practice now, but I haven't experienced that in no other position or no other place right now.
That's interesting. Claudia, how about you?
Yes, so I actually do a lot of presentations for the company I work for. And in the beginning, both vice presidents used to go with me. I think they were watching just to see, how, you interact with the clients and how receptive are they to you. And we have clients who will call the vice presidents after and give their feedback. So yes, we definitely got feedback. Thank God, most of it was positive, but you're always still a little bit stressed when eyes are watching, but I think it is necessary. But yes, we do have feedback, we do have monitoring, not always in the room, but by the client feedback privately to the vice president.
Okay, that's interesting. Kiva, how about you?
No, I've never experienced that in terms of any companies that I've ever worked with.
Okay, that's interesting.
Not really, no.
Just think about sports, for example, just as something totally different. I don't know if you've heard of Lionel Messi, probably the most famous footballer in the world, or I don't know, an Olympic champion from Bahamas, or the top, whatever sport you're interested in, or whatever thing you're involved in. Most top performers, whether they're actors or singers or sports people, have coaches. And even though they're amongst the best people in the world already, they get regular coaching. Footballers get coaching every day. So hang on a minute. If the best players in the world get coaching every day, how come it is that in organizations like banks and financial services organization, as soon as somebody is shown how to do the job and they've reached a certain level of performance, people stop coaching them? So here's the thing. I had a top performing team, but I used to have one observation minimum every single month with each member of my team, and I used to go with them and either see a face-to-face interview or listen in on a telephone interview and share a telephone call thing with them, and then give them feedback. Give them things to work on, ask for what they were trying to achieve, ask how they went, give them mentoring if they need it, but give them feedback and then plan their next behaviors. And even with top performers, get your top performers to continue being top performers, but bring everybody up to the level of the top performer. So then by constantly working with people, you're constantly developing their achievements, and you're getting people to be more successful. And sometimes when you're working with the top performers, sharing ideas with the other people to make sure that everybody becomes a top performer. So actually encouraging your boss to coach you rather than being afraid, and rather than it being oh my God, the boss is watching me again, using it as an opportunity to enhance your skills, to improve your skills, is a great way of improving your own personal performance. Okay, so we've just got 15 minutes. I could just talk a little bit about negotiation before we click on, unless anybody else has anything else to say on Stephen Covey. So I'm just wondering, don't take minutes to think about it because we don't have minutes to do, but just wondering, how do you, if you know you're going into a negotiation, do you actually have a particular approach? Do you actually have any strategies? So Rodrika, what's your tactics? What's your strategy when you go into a negotiation with a client?
First of all, do a background check.
Okay.
Here in the Bahamas, for me personally, I just do a quick social media scan. I do a Google search. If I have any application or information on the client beforehand, I usually request it in advance.
Okay.
And get a general consensus. And once I have an understanding of what their ultimate need is, then I'm better able to gauge that that deliberation.
That's good. Thank you. Thank you for that. Claudia, how about you? Do you have any strategies when you go into a negotiation?
Generally, I listen a lot. So the point you made about that, I was in sales for many years as well. So that is very important. And a trick I always had was, even if, say, one of my salespeople didn't get anywhere with a client, I always went in, even if they told me they were difficult, I always went in thinking this person is nice and a positive mindset rather than a combative mindset. And usually that would tip the scales for us to figure out a way forward. So I think having a positive, I guess, vibe going in helped a lot, but also trying to figure out what could I do in advance that might be a solution for them.
Okay, so you've got you've already got a goal, really. You know what you want to achieve from that. So start with the end in mind, to as far as you possibly can do. So, like Rodrigo, you've got as much information as you possibly can do. You've got some potential opportunities that are in your mind, so you're prepared for those as well. You've got some objectives, but also going into it with an open mind, so that you're listening for other opportunities which may present themselves, which you hadn't anticipated. All of which is good. Jay, strategies for a negotiation?
Usually it would be like know the non-negotiable. So I know with loans, you know that sometimes they make exceptions, and then other things like there's no exception. So okay, this is something that they aren't willing to negotiate with, whether it be something a write-off or a bad credit facility or anything like that. They aren't negotiating at all. So we know that, okay, that's a non-negotiable. We can't work around that. Other things, we know that they're a little bit flexible. So we know, okay, this could be negotiated. So I guess knowing non-negotiable, non-negotiables.
Okay. So you've actually, sorry,
that's ain't budget. Then you know your approach or the span or what you could do.
Sure, that's good. So that's one of the things. Well, each of you have talked about things that we're going to talk about in the negotiation session when we come to that. But again, actually having your non-negotiate, this is my walk away position. My position of no return. I'm not prepared to move beyond this position is a key to that. So actually going into the meeting with a best possible outcome, but a minimum requirement from the meeting. This is my walk away position, as it were, is a really good thing to have. So yeah, you've each said good and important things that we'll be talking about next week. So finally, and we'll probably make this the final thing really, but Kiva, do you have anything to add to what's already been said?
Not so much at the moment. I mean, I don't really work. My customers would be more along the lines of the persons that I work with presently. The only customer service job that I had was when I was in commercial banking. So I dealt with the external customers. Okay. So of course you have to go with a positive mindset in dealing with the external customers.
Yep, you sure do. Okay, well, let's just finish with this slide here, which is I'll do this one and the next one. So this is negotiation, really. We don't want it to be this. This will be a real lose-lose situation. But as I say, if we were doing this as a face-to-face training, I would definitely do this win-win exercise with you. And it's amazing. Sometimes I've actually got two groups who are literally about to kill each other because they've gone so much into the we must win and they must lose thing, to the extent of cheating within the game, and people coming up to me saying, Mike, they cheated, they promised us one thing and they're doing something entirely different. And that was never the objective of the game. But it's really interesting to see how people's lifelong experience of being in these situations takes them back to that win-lose scenario rather than the win-win scenario. So finally, we're going to be thinking about attitude, we're going to be thinking about behavior, and we're going to be thinking about a process, actually having a process to the negotiation so that we can be successful in the negotiation, so that we can achieve what we want to achieve. I think that's a great place to finish. It's 9 minutes early. I hope you don't mind finishing 9 minutes early. I've talked a lot today. You've listened a lot. I've encouraged you to talk towards the end. I hope that we can talk more together next week. It's good when you do talk. You're experienced people. You've got a lot to add to the group. So let me just check that I've moved this across, so I've missed anything that anybody might have said. Somebody just said lol. That's great. Okay. Thanks for your attendance today. I hope you found this today interesting. You've all got the slides that I've shared with you. I hope you find those helpful. You've all got the 2 handouts that's there, which give quite a lot of information, some good and useful tick lists for all the things that we're going to be talking about. So thanks for today. I hope you enjoy the rest of the weekend. I'm afraid that it's the rain. I went out earlier today and I got absolutely soaked. It's raining so hard here at the moment, so it's cold and raining. So I really, really, really wish that I was in the Bahamas with you today. So enjoy the rest of the weekend, and I look forward to seeing you next Saturday at you're 5 hours behind me, I think. So here it's currently almost 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Is it 12 o'clock there now?
It's about to be, it's 8 minutes to 12 over here.
8 minutes to 12, okay. Great. Enjoy the rest of the day. Have a nice lunch. My wife's cooking dinner, so looking forward to that. Enjoy the weekend. See you soon. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye. Take care.
Bye. Bye. Take care.